Hey, Engraver here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a music topic. We're going to be talking about MIDI chord packs and what I think of them. So if you're not aware, MIDI chord packs, they're basically pre-made chords to put into your DAW of choice. So whether you purchase a sample library, if that's what it's called, or maybe download something for free, usually it comes in a folder or a zip file that has MIDI files that you can just drag and drop, and voila, you've got harmony pre-made for your musical purposes. And I'd like to talk about what I think of that idea. And so, first of all, let's just talk about the advertising. We are probably 2 to 3 weeks into the new year, and if you've been aware, whether you watch YouTube or see a television commercial, maybe more specifically online ads and stuff like that, you might have been aware of commercials or ads being tailored to your interests. So for me, I'm a composer. I work with Logic Pro. I'm into synths. I'm into sound synthesis. So people will think, oh, well, she likes composing music. She likes electronic music. Maybe she likes some of these sound libraries and stuff like that. And in the thick of that, there are also, I've actually been bombarded, as far as YouTube is concerned, I've been bombarded with these very specific production-made libraries that involve some plugins, and among those plugins, if you call it that, that is these sample packs, these MIDI packs, and it's just been every day I've been bombarded with them. So I thought, well, I should just go on this recording here and just talk about my feelings. And first of all, let's talk about my feelings regarding the advertisement itself. So we just finished the Christmas holiday season, and it's the time of the year where people are saying, you got to improve yourself, you got to improve your music, you've got to just find that silver bullet or that magic bullet, however the phrase goes. You got to find that secret recipe to get your career just taking off so you experience uber levels of success. Why not have some chord packs, some MIDI chord packs? We have produced for you over 1,200 MIDI chord packs. Would you like to have these packs for $67? And I like to talk just about the fabrication of that advertising, the what I would call false advertising. I think something like this, when you have a false advertising of, just all these musicians and these producers that are, they may have, thousands of subscribers or hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and they're all, brought to this kind of sponsorship, and they're trying to just lay it down how cool these MIDI chord packs are, and they will just they will just show the DAW they're working in and all these tracks and stuff like that. They've got all the studio set up, they've got really expensive audio equipment, and then they'll just drag and drop this chord progression. And then they're just freaking out how good this chord progression is, how just magical this is, how they would not have otherwise composed this as a producer without these magical MIDI chord packs. Okay, so I would just call it right off the bat, there is a sense of false advertisement there where people are really bringing in just a pool of influencers to target a demographic of what, where I would describe this demographic as beginners, people who are just starting out, just learning the ropes, thinking, I want to be a music producer, I want to be a composer, what do I have to do? And then you've got these sponsors, and by the way, I'm not against business affiliations or sponsorships. I actually have been in contact with one of a product that I use myself, DistroKid, so I'm not against sponsorships. I would just say, just be careful with how these things are being sponsored. So kind of be wary if there are just these music producers and these influencers that are saying, I don't need my MIDI controller keyboard. I don't even need to compose anymore. I used to compose my own chords, but not anymore. I want to buy these MIDI chord packs. So that was me rambling just a little bit. Let's get into a couple of points with this false advertisement. First of all, this false advertising really draws up some empty promises. And what are those empty promises? Well, the first empty promise that I had noticed was the use of this kind of term that's floating around here called pro chords. These MIDI chord packs, they have pro chords so that your music will actually be the next #1 hit. You will be composing at a pro level with these pro chords. Now, speaking from experience, I have 2 composition degrees. I've got a bachelor's and a master's in music composition. And I have to say, also in music education, not that that means that much anymore, but I have 3 music degrees. And after getting my master's, I have spent the last 8 to 9 years just practicing my composing, practicing music composition every single day or every single week. I have been practicing frequently. And nowhere in my 25 years of music experience had I ever heard the term pro chords. Why? There's no such thing. There's no chord or chord progression that is pro. You can use something as simple as diatonic chords in the C major scale and professionally use those chords and professionally just have that built in your music, and it just depends on how you are doing your music. So get that out of the way. There's no such thing as pro chords or a pro chord progression. There's no ticket, there's no golden ticket to get that music at the pro level just because you have these MIDI chord packs. You compose professionally with practice, you practice your craftsmanship, and you build off your harmony, your bass line, your rhythmic section, your melody, all with practice, all with time and dedication. And this gets to the next point of this false advertising, and that is this disparaging against learning, even a disparaging against music education. Now, you don't have to get a music degree to be able to compose and release music. One of my favorite artists out there, Stefan Torto, he's self-taught. I mean, I almost don't believe he's self-taught because his music is really good, compositionally speaking, and working with instrumentation and engineering, it's all great, but he claims that he's self-taught. So you don't need to get a music degree, you don't need to spend thousands of dollars getting the basic liberal arts requirements and getting that degree. But I would say don't disparage against learning. I'm a music teacher, okay, so I work with students on a daily or weekly basis. I'm all about practicing your craft. I'm all about mastering your instrument, whatever that is, whether it's a physical instrument or mastering a digital audio workstation. I'm about dedication. I'm about time, commitment, and dedication to getting better with your craft. A lot of these people who are behind the scenes of selling MIDI chord packs would say, don't bother wasting time learning music theory. Don't bother spending hours looking through countless YouTube tutorials that won't guarantee success or won't guarantee you'll get anywhere. And it's like, first of all, it takes a lot to put a tutorial together on YouTube, and people are very thoughtful with their tutorials. So don't knock on YouTube tutorials. They're extremely valuable, and it's free education. It's free education. So any company or anyone selling a product that says, hey, you don't need to learn anything, you don't need to spend hours learning the fundamentals and stuff like that, just leave it to us. We've got a theorist behind our product, and they've created all these chord progressions for you. So don't bother learning, don't bother practicing, don't bother getting better. We've got it pre-made for you. So that's the false advertising involved. It's this idea that, hey, we've got pro level chords for you to have, pre-made harmony for you, for your song or for your piece. And also don't bother learning that music theory or ear training. That stuff is boring. That stuff is too hard. You don't have to do that to compose music. So let's talk about what it means to be professional when it comes to chords and harmony. So there are some instances where I saw with this pre-made harmony, these MIDI chord packs, where I saw that some of these chords were just not structured right in terms of voice leading. In fact, I had heard from someone else's criticism on YouTube that these pre-made chords are all in root position. Well, when you're talking about momentum, harmonic momentum, and getting your music to flow better and be more dramatic and dynamic and more effective, well, you're not just going to be plopping root chords, just triads using root position all the time, that's very blocky, that's very chunky, that there's no flow, there's no semantics, there's just no poetry behind just those block chords. And so what's the solution? Well, if you had some first year college music theory behind you, you would know to use inversions of those chords. So maybe you do start out in root position, but then you'll move into first position, or first inversion rather. Maybe that you'll use a seventh, and plop that seventh, you'll use a seventh chord and then plop that seventh in the bass, and then have a really effective bass line doing that kind of harmonic motion. Sounding professional has to do with voice leading when it comes to harmony. You want an easy flow. It's kind of like with an author, a writer, where it's so easy to read that person's prose. There's the sentence structure is just right. There's a good pace to it, a good flow to it, and it's just a very enjoyable experience. It's the same with harmonic motion. And so if you have pre-made harmony, or if you buy a set of folders, or the whole library of MIDI chord packs, you run the risk of just having the basic diatonic root positions. They're legitimate chords, you can use them, but if they're restricted to just 3 voices or maybe 4 voices, it really does sound constricted. The other risk is that you're going to sound generic. You're going to sound like everyone else who purchases these chord packs, whether it's producers or songwriters trying to make a deadline. And there's nothing unique. There's nothing personal to you with these chord packs. Chances are you're going to have your favorite chord packs because you like the harmony so much, and then 5 other people releasing music at the same time will have chosen the same chords. So there's that. If you want your own personal signature, I would just advise keep homing in and practicing and mastering your craft. So let's say you're on the fence and you're thinking, well, if I purchase these MIDI chord packs, what's the big deal? Maybe I could just experiment with them. And I would say that's fine. Use any tool you want to experiment. As long as you're learning, that's great. But let's say you're asking me to convince you not to. You're asking me to dissuade you, and you're saying, what's the big deal if I do have this, or if I do purchase this? I would say this: even if you had the best plethora, the best samples of chord progressions out there from these MIDI chord packs, I would say there's a difference between having what's good and knowing why it's good. So if the chord packs inhibit you from learning why certain chords function the way they function and why they sound good because of it, I would say that's a reason. That's a reason not to get them. There's a reason to getting them, and I would say just use them as a template and use them to learn what makes them work, if they do work. But you got to be careful, because I have seen mediocre quality chords and chord structure from these certain packs, these certain companies who are charging $60 and whatnot. But that out of the way, I would say there is a very good reason for trying them out and experimenting and saying, oh, I actually do like how this sequence works, but why? Why does this progression work the way it works? So you may have good music at your disposal, even though it's pre-made. Not really a fan of that myself, but you might not know why it sounds good. So how to find out why something is good is really touching up on at least first-year college music theory, if you want to learn how harmony works the way it works. And what is covered in music theory, first-year college? First of all, you don't have to go to college to take these courses. The online is a free space of a lot of free stuff, and it's awesome. Just be legal about it. But what is first-year college theory? Well, I've got a list right on my desk. It is knowing your key signatures, major, minor, things like scales and chromatic scales and all of that, knowing your chords, knowing your chord inversions, knowing your harmony, knowing counterpoint and contrapuntal motion, so understanding the motion between 2 voices or 3 voices or 4 voices, leading into 4-part harmony writing, and doing basic analysis of like Bach chorales and stuff like that, even though some of his Bach chorales are really tough. You don't have to go that far. That's getting a little bit more advanced. But, 4-part writing leading into getting into the first and second year of intermediate keyboard skills. So knowing how to play scales on a piano, on a keyboard, even a MIDI controller, as I see right in front of me, whether that's 2 octaves to 3 octaves. And I would say, this is my experience as a violinist, not as a pianist. I'm not a professional keyboard player. As a different kind of instrumentalist, I would say even more valuable than knowing your scales on the piano, just know your scales on any instrument, but even more important than knowing your scales on the piano, know the chords on the piano. Know what they feel like, know how they are spaced, know what root position feels like, know what first inversion feels like, know what, third inversion with 7th chords, know what that feels like, know the spacing, and understand spacing when it comes to harmony. And so if you have all of that out of the way, I'm going to list it again: keys, chords, chord inversions, harmony, including 4-part harmony and analysis, counterpoint, and the basics of contrapuntal motion and basic keyboard skills. That is all the theory you need to know. And I should include mode mixture. You gotta know your modes, actually. Yeah, know your modes. The diatonic stuff and your modal stuff. Know those. And if you know those, if you have just a grasp at those, you can work in your DAW, whatever DAW you like. You can work with those MIDI blocks. I work in Logic Pro all the time with the MIDI blocks. I do that way more than actually constructing the chords on staff paper. I used to do staff paper exclusively as a music student, but now I just know how to do it. I know how to do it on staff paper, even if I don't do it these days much. But I have an ear for it. You have this kind of inner ear. You develop an inner ear, this natural ear training. Practice ear training. There are so many free sources out there for ear training and harmonic analysis and 4-part writing. Just get all that out of the way. Spend, 9 to 12 months tops getting really, really familiar and really grasping those concepts and those fundamentals. Somewhat fundamental. Some of them are more complex. Get to grasping that. Get to grasping first year college music theory, and you will write harmony. And the more you practice, and when you practice, weeks to months to years on end, things will become natural to you. You'll have your own workflow, but even more importantly, your music will sound unique. So all that to say is, I'm really not a fan of MIDI chord packs. I think they could be good for learning. I think they could be used as a learning tool. But if you're just starting out, please, I'm a music teacher, so maybe I'm biased. Please get yourself some music lessons at a local studio in your city or a nearby city. Or if you don't have the budget, just explore YouTube. Just explore free music theory sites. Practice your ear training. You don't have to spend a dime learning very fundamental, very valuable things in music theory, ear training, and all of that. And hopefully I said something to enlighten you and to inspire you. And maybe if it offends you and you're like, nah, I just want my chord packs, well, then you're a producer and you're not a composer. Sorry. But in any case, thanks for watching and listening. Until I see you next, keep producing the music that you love. Keep practicing the music you love, and I will catch you later. Thanks again.